Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to Atticus Live. How is everybody?
Well, I'm drinking wine tonight, so I'm doing very well.
And
Cheers.
I am drinking my crack, my liquid crack. So how are you guys today? Hope you guys are all doing well. We are coming to you live from, once again, French Harbor, beautiful Roatan, Honduras. We put our hardtop extension down this time so that we don't blow out the image during sunset. So we'll pop that up here in a little bit. See if you guys can't see the sunset.
It's actually a little windy. We've got a little cold front coming through, so hopefully that won't blow through here. I think we'll be fine for the night. So who's out there? We've got Derek Woodring. Again, how's it going, Derek? Justin Burton, hello. Bake Sale, it's been a long time. How's it going? Tom McFarland, always good to see your name. Stacy DePaulo, how's it going? I think I probably saw Darla and Steve in there.
SV Allegro, we got Matthew Smith, hello. Hugo Benitez, how's it going? We got Russell, we got Spyrodon Morozos, hello from Greece. Sorry, I'm not good with the Greek names. Apologies, amigo.
We got my brother trying to already type some inappropriate things.
There's Sailing SV Someday. What's going on, guys? Michelle Pruitt. We got Eddie Fernandez, Adam Alexander, Stacy DePaulo again. Cool. We got Dave 0549JV. All right. Well, welcome, guys, to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. So, just so you guys know, in our fundraising effort for this refit that is imminently approaching, we are doing another Atticus giveaway drawing. And this time, you have the chance to win this amazing hunk of a man. No, I'm just kidding. You can win this.
Only $5.
That's right. You can win this T-shirt. You can win this T-shirt. I'm married to Desiree. She would probably.
You can have him for a couple of bucks, just for like a night.
All right, we'll talk about it. But regardless, you definitely can win this T-shirt. So on the front, it's got our logo right here, and on the back is our quotes from season 2.
We got "Come with me on a journey through space and time." Let's see, what else? The universe doesn't give a shit about you. You guys might remember that quote.
The inspirational quote of the year. So, if you want a chance to win this T-shirt, then all you got to do is donate $5 or more via PayPal or Super Chat. Now, we're going to do something a little differently today. If you, we're going to give away one shirt for all the donations on the Super Chat side. So, of all the people that donate on Super Chat, there's one T-shirt that you can win. On the PayPal side, they're going to win one T-shirt as well. And so if you want to increase your chances of winning the T-shirt, I would advise donating on PayPal, because generally a lot less people donate on PayPal, so your chances are significantly increased to win. So there you go.
All right. So also, if for some reason we're not getting to your question, go ahead and keep asking it over and over again. We'll really try to get to it. We're going to kick things off with a question that actually arose from last week's live stream, which I thought was really interesting.
Real quick, before we do, Rob Kennedy is saying, guys, where do we send PayPal payments to on here? And we should have our good friend DV Zire, Dave, our moderator, can throw up a link to our PayPal. So keep an eye out for that, and he'll give you the link, and it's very, very easy.
Cool. All right, so this question is from Todd of Sea Light Adventures. He said, I understand you are planning some major spar replacements due to corrosion, which could be costly and a lot of downtime. I know there is always an emotional attachment to something that you built from shell, but just consider the possibility that there might be another boat somewhere that is perhaps equal or less to the cost of your spar replacement costs. I was in West Palm Beach in January, and there was a 40-foot sloop designed by Robert Perry. The interior was in great condition. The young man who bought it paid $1,000 for it. It needed work for sure, but you two are no strangers to that. There are deals to be had. Safe travels.
Totally. And what was that person's name?
Todd from Sea Light Adventures.
So first of all, Todd from Sea Light Adventures, thank you very much for that question. Great question. And so, I mean, this is definitely an issue or a question, a concept that we are dealing with at this point, which is, you know, is it worth putting more money into Atticus, or should we try and make our step up, our upgrade right now? And, you know, the way that we've been looking at it, and that this might change, you never know, but the way that we've been looking at it is we need for us right now, time is more valuable than money per se.
We have more time than money, is what you mean.
Well, no, we have
oh,
less
no, we have
time.
less time. We don't have that much money either.
We don't have a lot of money either. We don't have a lot of either. But what I'm trying to say is because we're trying to potentially start a family in the next couple years, right? It's not going to be tomorrow, but it's going to be in the next couple years. We're going to try and start seeing if we can't bring a little baby Atticus into the world, or Bradicus, as as Brad Scott was saying. Because we want to do that in the next couple years, we want to really get this Pacific crossing done as soon as possible, relatively speaking. And so because we want to do that as soon as possible, we can't really take on any large projects or projects that are larger than we have to right now. So long story short, the way we're looking at it is, even though replacing the spars would be a big project and this refit that we're planning would be a big project, it would be a smaller project than getting, say, a $1,000 Tiana up to speed. That would be a better investment from a money standpoint, rather than sinking more money into Atticus, but it's a faster solution. It requires less time. I mean, when we refit Atticus, it took us 3 years to bring this thing back. And so, a good deal on a used boat that needs a lot of work, I mean, that could take us a year or two.
Yeah.
Whereas getting Atticus ready for the Pacific, we're thinking it'll probably take us 6 months. So that's where we're at. What do you guys think? Let us know. If you have any comments or questions about that, I'd be really curious to hear what you have to say.
And we're definitely open. So if an opportunity arises where we could get a new boat that maybe would take us 8 months to refit and sail off into the sunset, then we might consider it. But this is a topic that I think is really important, because a lot of times people send me questions on our Facebook page and ask, I'm looking for a sailboat. This is my price range. What do you think about this boat? And a lot of times it's like a 40-foot boat that's $1,000. And the first thing that makes me think of is like, wow, you're gonna need a lot of time and money to refit that boat. So even though initially it's a great deal, you're sacrificing a lot of time. So I think you put it really well. You said when you're buying a boat, you can either put your cap. Do you remember how you said it? Yeah,
you're either going to spend a lot of money or a lot of time, but you can't get away with not doing one or the other, right?
Right.
And so if you're going to get a really good deal on a used boat, you're going to end up spending a lot of time getting that thing up and running. Right. So, and John Eberline says, does he always run on so long answering a question? Yes. Yes, I sure do. But because of that, we should probably at least move on to some other people's comments. Real quick, Rob S. says, Rob S. in the house. What's up,
hey,
Rob? Thanks for coming. And I got a bunch of super chats that we got to thank real quick, so let's do that before we move on. We have, drum roll please. Nice. We got Claude Ellerby.
Oh,
thank you very much, Claude. Cheers. And we have Matthew Smith. Cheers, amigo. Very much. Thank you. We got Claude Ellerby again. Says, hi, guys. Hey, Claude. How are you, man? We got Larry Sumner. Says, hi from Waltham, Massachusetts.
Nice. Cheers.
Hey, Larry. Thanks for coming, man. And we got Mike Williams. Thanks, y'all. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it. And then Stacy DePaolo says, will you be posting last week's live episode?
We didn't post that live, but we have the unlisted link, so just send us a message on our Facebook page and I'll send you the link.
Cool.
All right.
Well, real quick before you go in, we got RJ's Salty Adventure asks, Jordan, is the boat up to your standards already? Could she sail the Pacific? And so basically where we're at with Atticus, what I feel Atticus is up for is cruising in the Caribbean. Or a better way of putting that is only doing passages that are within 3 days, so 3 days or less, because you've got fantastic forecasting in that period. Once you're out longer than that, the forecasting isn't going to be as good, and you can't rely on it as much, and you might just get caught in something nasty. And so if we were to cross the Pacific, I would want Atticus to be prepared to handle very extreme weather and be confident about it. And right now there's a handful of components, primarily with the rig, that I'm not terribly 100% confident about. And most of it has to do with, boy, it is a breezy day today. Woo, I don't know if you guys can tell, but we're heeling over all over the place. But Anyway, so long story short, most of the issues that we're having have to do with the age of the rig. When we bought Atticus, we didn't know how old the rig was. The previous owner didn't know how old the actual spars were. We replaced all of the standing rigging, all the terminals, but we didn't replace the spars. And also, it's looking like maybe we should have done that.
And also, there were some projects when we were trying to power through the refit, and we didn't really know how to prioritize what would be a good idea once we're actually out and cruising versus just trying to get out of there and get the refit done. So for example, we rebedded all of our chain plates, and we considered putting them outboard, but we thought, you know what, the Atticus is already built with them inboard, let's just redo that, make it really strong. Now that we're thinking about it, thinking of crossing the Pacific, we're like, man, we really should have, if we were going to do all the work, we really should have just put those chain plates outboard. Another project that's an good example of that is we've heard that Allied sea winds have leaky hull to deck joints, and so we actually shoved a bunch of epoxy in the actual joint itself, but we are getting a little bit of leakage, probably from underneath the cap rail. Anyways, that's another example of if we had taken longer on the refit, we wouldn't have to be dealing with that now, and we don't have to deal with it now. A lot of people cross the Pacific without an engine, without lots of working systems, but it's just depends on like your level of comfort in your own risk spectrum.
Yeah, your risk tolerance, and I mean, I would feel fine crossing the Pacific without an engine. I don't feel fine crossing the Pacific with a rig that I'm not very comfortable in. I don't need half the systems we have on this boat to cross the Pacific, but that rig needs to stay up. And that's like priority number one. And so that's you know, we have friends that have crossed the Pacific with boats that were in really rough shape and they made it. And so I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying it's getting to the point now where it's I guess you would call it below our risk tolerance, or above our risk tolerance, as it were.
I got a good question. Butch Lewis asks, why not spend more money and buy a boat that doesn't need refitting?
Well, mostly because we just don't have the money. If we had the money, I would do that. Basically, yeah. I mean, unless I needed that money for something else. When we first bought Atticus, I remember Reef Perkins, who was in the episode when we had Atticus kind of roughly surveyed. He was our surveyor. And he was trying to get us to buy a more expensive boat. And we're like, no, we want to do this one. And he's like, well, you know, if you want a couple years of misery and pain, then you go ahead and buy this boat. And we were like, ha 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 ha.
We can handle it.
Oh, Reef, you're such a gag. And then that's exactly what ended up happening. And we got a lot out of that experience. We learned so much. We ended up being able to finance our cruising and working in Isla Mujeres, and I mean, so many doors opened up for us. That said, it was a lot of pain and a lot of misery. And so if you can buy a boat that's ready to go, holy moly, do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't tell you about your financial situation. I mean, so that's the thing. It's always a nuanced thing. How much money can you spend? How much time do you have?
Oh, here's a good question. Hugh Van Dyne says, what's the chance of really having a patron charter through Sail Libra? And when I did my passage with Sail Libra, Ryan was super excited to have us back on board. And we are strongly considering going back to the United States for this refit. We're probably like 90% there. And so if we're back in the States, there's a really good chance that we'll actually be able to use Sail Libra's boat and do some kind of a passage or at least a sail outside of Pensacola. So we're really excited about that. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and again, Butch Lewis asked a couple times, why not spend more money and buy a boat that doesn't need refitting? I mean, again, if we had the money, we would, period. I mean, that's just all there is to it. If we had the money, then we would. So, real quick, just a reminder for those of you who have just joined the live stream, we are doing another giveaway today to try and fund this refit that is coming up. We're giving away 2 of these t-shirts, Project Atticus t-shirts. We got the quotes on the back.
Designed by our patrons.
That's right. So all you gotta do to get into this raffle is donate $5 or more on Super Chat or PayPal. We're gonna give away 1 to the Super Chatters and 1 to the PayPalers. So PayPalers are gonna get a better chance of winning, that's for sure.
Clay Farnett has a really good question, which is, would you consider synthetic rigging?
Yes, I sure would. if we hadn't already gone with all brand new standing rigging that's stainless steel, I would definitely consider synthetic. What I like about it is that you can carry a lot of spare stuff on board. You can splice it yourself, you can terminate it yourself. Like it's a very like hands-on, in my opinion, a very hands-on do-it-yourself option that you can fix anywhere in the world, and you can easily carry the spares for. So I'm a big fan of the idea. I do want to do a little bit more research about what you need to do for UV protection, what you need to do for chafe protection, what you need to look out for. I haven't done as much research as I need to, but I think it's a great option for the most part. Mm-hmm. And then real quick, we had another question here, and it was, SV Infinite Karma asks, why is an outboard chain plate better than an inboard chain plate? And you know, they're not better necessarily, because an outboard chain plate is going to give you a worse sheeting angle for any sails that go outboard of the shrouds. And so you're going to be able to sheet in your Genoa less tight, and so you're not going to be able to get as hard on the wind. That's one example of a reason that outboard chain plates aren't the end-all be-all. But the thing that I like about them is that your risk of corrosion that you can't see is lower. And generally, chain plates that fail are inboard chain plates, and they fail because you get water into the deck, and they end up failing right there in the area where they pass through the deck, where you can't see them. And so we're already starting to get a little bit of weird like water intrusion through our chain plates. There's a little bit of like rust coloration, and these chain plates, like, we installed them ourselves just a couple years ago.
Right.
And so I'm just not into that. Like, I want outboard chain plates that I can see if anything's going wrong. That's my stance on that.
And then Stacy DePaolo asks, are you leaning more towards keeping Atticus? And I would say yes. Again, mostly because we know every single part of Atticus. We know exactly what kind of work she needs, and we can price it out. Versus, you know, finding a new boat takes a lot of time. For those of you guys who are out there looking for your first cruising boat, it could take up to a year to find the right boat. And so it would find a lot of time to find a good boat, and then once we have that boat, to really kind of understand it and figure out what kind of work it actually needs. Yeah, we're going to be a lot more prepared to do that now that we've owned Atticus for 5 years now. But it's still going to be a challenge anytime you're on a new sailboat to figure out where the problem areas are.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to do a couple of quick thank yous to super chatters. We got Patrick Kyle.
Thank you, Patrick.
Muchas gracias, amigo.
Cheers.
Then we got Sailing SV Someday, says
Again?
no, thank you.
Thank
you. And then we also have here, we got SV, we got SV Allegro, I believe. I just lost it. SV Allegro, thank you very
Cheers.
much. Muchas gracias. And then we got Susan Osterlund, says, keep it simple, sailor. Hey, I like it.
Good point.
I like it. And then we got Brad Scott coming in. What's up, Brad? How's it going, buddy?
Cheers.
All right. And then I keep trying to cheers you, and you keep just
I'm
totally...
cheersing the people, buddy.
All right. That's cool. And then Keith White says, thank you. Love the show from Florida. Thank you, Keith. Really appreciate
Cheers.
it. And then Brad Scott again. Atticus is a great boat. Small-ish, but a great boat.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, Brad. Thanks, buddy.
Cheers. And that's actually another question I had from our Facebook page from Ron Travis. He says, these are the questions I asked my wife and myself as we try to visualize living on a small sailboat. 2 questions that come to mind. Is it still fun? And would you have bought a bigger sailboat if you had to do it all again? Do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, so we've kind of answered this a little bit in the past, but I think we both would have bought a bigger sailboat if we could have afforded it, right? But because of our financial situation at the time, it made way more sense for us to go with a boat that we could afford easily. And you got to remember, when we first bought Atticus, we didn't really understand how we were going to fund cruising. And I mean, it's not like a simple thing to answer. It's like, so you want to go just sailing and not, like, how are you going to make money? That's a very good question.
Yeah.
And so for us to, like, have any confidence that we'd be able to figure that out, we knew that we needed the lowest overhead possible. So if if we were going to buy a boat to just hang out in Florida and just kind of go sailing on the weekends, maybe it'd be different. You know, if we were going to keep a steady job and everything like that, it'd be a totally different situation. But knowing that we wanted to just leave and not come back to the States, we really needed to be very financially responsible.
And what's great about buying a 30-foot boat as our first boat is that we've really been able to buy really nice safety and cruising gear. So it's not uncommon for us to see huge sailboats with like hot water and air conditioning, and they have a smaller primary anchor than we do, or they have a dinghy that doesn't plane, or they have an old outboard that doesn't start up the first time. So
yeah, I call those people boat poor, right? They've got a big boat, but they don't have any money for anything, right? So it's like, you'll see, I mean, we see it happen all the time. People roll in with a big boat, and they're literally like rowing their dinghy, you know, with like that they've patched up with, you know, I mean, it's just like they don't have a cent to their name for anything else, and that's the polar opposite of the strategy that we went with.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of live within our own financial means and be
within.
Yeah. And we've been really happy. We've so that answers the question: is it still fun? And I would say absolutely. We actually met a patron in Guatemala, and he came down below. We were giving him a boat tour, and he was like, "Wow, this is smaller than it looks in your videos. Like, you guys are pretty intense." And I don't feel like a badass every day when I'm living in this small space with my husband who can't stand up straight. You don't think about it. I don't think about it. I just think like, wow, this is like, look at my view. I'm looking out at this gorgeous ocean all around us right now. And we get to bathe with the sunset setting behind us. Like, I love this life. So,
yeah,
yes,
so
it's still fun.
we are because we save so much money on having a small boat that has relatively low upkeep costs. We're able to afford this kind of lifestyle that we wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. But I mean, if you can afford a larger boat, then we can, like, go for it. If we someday could afford a larger boat, we will buy one. Now, we will always be we'll do the same thing, right? Like, if we could afford a 40-foot boat, we're gonna buy a 36-foot boat, right? I don't think we're ever going to spend most of our money on the boat.
I think that's just our personalities as well. It's the same as when we're trying to estimate how long a boat project will take. Jordan's like, oh, it'll probably take us, 3 months. And I'm like, well, it'll probably take us actually 6 to 9 months. So let's just be real about this.
Yeah, right. All right, so we got my brother and his family. Jim Morrison is in the house. Hey guys. Thanks for coming in.
And then Clay Farnett says, have you guys been hanging out with Peter and Margarita from Sailing into Freedom? And we did meet them in Guatemala, and it's funny because we met them when we were hanging out at the waterfalls, and then we both had GoPros. We were both kind of videotaping a little bit, and it wasn't until hanging out with them a couple of times that we realized we both had sailing channels. So we hung out with them a couple of times, but we were never able to collaborate on a video, which was too bad. He got sick, we had to go inland, so hopefully we'll run into them again. They were really great people.
Yeah. And then also Stacy DePaolo says, will you cross the Pacific before you have a baby Atticus? And yes, so that is basically our main goal right now, is to cross the Pacific soon so that we can do that before having the baby, because that would be a pretty big challenge, I would imagine, trying to cross the Pacific with a small child. And we may have to kind of slow things down once we have the kid, I would imagine. And so we kind of want to do this big, crossing, and then once we're over there, in Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, once we're in that area, then we can talk about doing more, more coastal cruising and stuff like that, and then start maybe thinking about a baby. Oh, go ahead.
Got a really good question. Carlos Rodriguez asks, where do you get your tutorials, or how or where do you go when you need info or advice on some project or task?
Well, my new favorite thing to do is to go on to Cruising and Sailing, the Facebook group, and just ask them. And it's funny because, like, you don't even need to be polite about it. You don't even need to be like, hey, I'm new to the group. Like, my name's Jordan. I've got a 30-foot sailboat. Like, there's so many people on there that want to prove how much they know about boats and their, like, social standing within the group, that you can just be like, what should I do? And then like post a picture and like you'll get like 30 responses.
That being said, like there are trolls and there are mean people on there.
There's tons of mean people on there.
So
yeah.
like I have asked a question on that on that group before and got tore apart. Like I think I was asking if anyone knows about an air conditioned like public space in the Rio Dulce. People were like, I can't believe young people these days looking for air conditioning. When I was cruising, there was no air conditioning. I was like, dude, I'm okay. I'm wondering if I could learn from you guys who might know some secrets that I don't know yet.
Yeah. And, you know, so one trick is like sailing and cruising is probably the largest, you know, cruising related Facebook group. But you can go to some of the smaller ones and they're probably going to be less mean and more helpful, but you're going to get like maybe fewer responses, right? So your chances of getting the right answer might be a little bit lower. But there's tons of them, like I think DIY sailboats there. I mean, I can't actually remember all the names.
I'm going to interrupt you there and kind of fill in the gaps to what Jordan is saying. And also take everything you learn with a grain of sand, with a grain of sand, because...
Grain of salt.
Grain of salt. Put your ear to the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys notice, Desiree all the time in the episodes will say, it's time to problem shoot. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to problem shoot this.
Anyway, so the way that I use those groups, if I don't like using those groups. I use those groups for sewing because it is a small community, and so you get really, really good information. I don't like using the big groups because, in my opinion, there's a lot of hate going on in those big groups that I'm just too delicate for. So I would say when you're going to get like 7 different major like schools of advice when you ask one question in one of those forums, and then let that kind of form your basic understanding, and then from there go and read books. There are YouTube channels. Jordan loves Boatworks US.
Boatworks Today.
Boatworks Today, they're
That's
great.
A great one.
But we relied heavily on Don Casey, his books when we first got Atticus.
Yeah, Don Casey's got the one big one, the Complete Sailboat Maintenance Manual, I think is what it's called.
And Practical Sailor is flipping amazing.
Yeah, get a subscription to Practical Sailor online and read as much of those issues as you can, because they actually do like relatively scientific, sometimes it's scientific, sometimes it's not so scientific, but like tests on different products and different methods for cruising. So there you go.
And then Butch Lewis, we were just talking about this morning randomly because I've never considered it, but Butch Lewis says, would you consider in the future getting a catamaran?
Say that one more time.
Would you ever consider getting a catamaran in the future?
You know what's funny? We were just talking about that today, and I definitely would. To me, a catamaran, my philosophy on catamarans is the same as my philosophy on bigger boats, in the sense that like I'd love one, I just can't afford one. And whereas we probably could someday afford like a 36, 37 foot boat, I don't think we're ever going to be able to afford a catamaran, especially one that's like ready to go offshore, right? And the reason being that catamarans, like, they have to handle tremendous loads. Those things have to be built so flippin' strong to be able to have like 2 hulls hitting 2 different waves at the same time. Like, imagine all those stresses. On a monohull, you don't have anything like that. And so, long story short, catamarans, by their very nature, have to be built in a way that is more expensive. On top of that, they generally include systems that are more expensive, and so the end result is just extremely more expensive, like pound for pound, for what you're getting. So you can get a monohull that's got plenty of space, you know, enough room for guests and everything else, and it's going to be significantly cheaper than a similar sized catamaran.
Jordan brought up a really great analogy to me this morning. He was like, it's kind of like asking someone like, would you ever want to get a mansion? It's like, yeah, but like, I don't know, we're never going to be able to afford a mansion.
Right.
So it's wishful thinking.
But that said, if we could, we would pull the trigger, and I wouldn't feel bad about it for a second. You know what I mean?
Really? Because we could outfit like a badass monohull and like do some really cool like Alaska sailing or...
That is a good point. Like at the end of the day, at every step, like okay, now you can afford a catamaran, or you could afford like a straight expedition style monohull that's ready to go to the Arctic, you know?
Yeah.
And so that is a good point. Like,
and I'd say for me, like, it takes very little to make me comfortable. I need like a nice bed, a refrigerator, and like a hot shower once every 2 months, and I'm good. So my like barrier to entry for happiness is pretty low.
Yeah.
Let's do some super chat thank yous.
Okay, let's do it. So we have.
I think we ended at.
No, I got it. Here we are. Okay, so we got Waterworld. Thank you very much, Waterworld. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
We got Chad Saxton says, "Cause you are legit. You're the inspiration."
Aw,
Chad,
thank
you are
Cheers.
legit. Thank you very much. We got Sailing Vessel Uncensored says, "Hope to see you in Florida. We will definitely be letting you know if and when we arrive in Florida." So thank you very much. We got SV Infinite Karma says,
Ooh, good name.
"Thanks for all you do." Thank you, SV
Cheers.
Infinite Karma. And then we've got Rob Kennedy. Thank you very much, Rob. RJ's Salty Adventures. Thank you very
Cheers.
much. Nick Garcia.
Cheers.
Gracias, amigo.
Gracias, Garcia.
That's right. And then Zachary Bigger says, "You guys help provide. You guys help to provide me with a lot of info and inspiration to help me out with my boat building project. Thanks for all the videos."
Cheers.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Zachary.
you.
That means a lot that we're having an effect and that we're able to help you. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and then we got Bojan T. Says, "Not much. Hope it helps." Hope it helps. There you are. Thank you. And then.
Interested in your opinion if you get a question from early in the comments. Glad you're still approachable, organic, and easy to support.
Well, I'll keep my eye out. I'll go ahead and look for that. Do you have a comment that we should? Oh, actually,
I've got a couple questions from Dave.
Well, real quick, Gary Ames, and then we can get to that.
Sure.
Gary Ames says, "I love the wind scoop." So there you go.
Thank you.
And he says, "I'm stealing the design for my Cape Dory 30 cutter. Nice boat, man. I am a big fan of that boat, and I think that you'll like this wind scoop a lot."
Also, just to interrupt, I am keeping track of our PayPal donations, so thank you so much for you silent angels out there who are sending us PayPal donations. The way that it works, it makes it really hard for me to open up every email and thank you guys, so we'll do a separate PayPal drawing for the t-shirt, and just know that from the bottom of our hearts, we are very grateful that you are doing a PayPal donation instead of Super Chat, because PayPal doesn't take a cut. So, anyways, moving on.
Rock on. Okay, cool.
Clay Farnett asks, "Have you guys been..." Oh, sorry, that was a long time ago. Okay. RJ Salty Adventures says, "Jordan, kinda long, so I'll try and keep it short. I looked at a Columbia 41 the other day. Keel bolts were very rusty. Are you familiar with Columbia boats, and what would be the best fix for them? For rusty keel bolts?"
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and it's something that I have not dealt with. I know that it's an issue. There is a chance that the best thing to do would be to pull that keel and then somehow get new bolts threaded into it. And I don't know what that process looks like, but I'm sure there's boatyards out there that have done it, because it's not something new. Keel bolts do that over time. So what I would recommend is talk to someone like a professional who's been through that, because at that point, if you're just going to ask me, I'll just look at it and be like, "No, it looks pretty rusty," And so you want to really talk to a professional who's dealt with that before and who can suggest ways of knowing like how bad the corrosion is, how bad the damage is, and then what you can do moving forward. So that'd be a good one for sailing and cruising, for the Facebook group or some of the other Facebook groups, because you probably have some old school, boat yard guys that have dealt with stuff like that.
And another piece of advice that requires a little bit more balls, I guess I'll say, is when we were in the boatyard, we were super intimidated because we knew nothing about how to fix a sailboat and get it ready for offshore cruising. But we didn't let that stop us from asking a lot of questions, even though we felt super, super stupid. And so over the course of a couple of months living in the boatyard, we were able to identify the people in the boatyard who seemed to have their boat knowledge kind of like stuff together. And so we just tried really hard to become friends with those people. So we became really good friends with the fiberglasser, really good friends with the painter, and really good friends with a rigging guy. And it was a slow process. Initially, they were really kind of annoyed by us, but we were just really persistent and showed up with like a 6-pack of beer, you know, once a week, and we're just like, so let's talk about corrosion, blah blah blah. That was something that really helped us out a lot. Mary Jo Clement says, just want to say we really enjoy your videos, fun and informative. So happy to have found you guys inspired. So happy to have found you guys inspiring. One day we'll be boat owners. MJ and Todd. That's awesome. Cheers, guys.
All right.
We'll see you out there someday.
Yeah. Well, looks like we might not quite get to see the sunset itself, but we'll definitely get more colors this way at least. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. And then SV Allegro says, what's in the cup, bud? So I am drinking coffee, or as Brad Scott puts it, liquid meth, or crack, or whatever your favorite drug of choice is, but it's just, it gets me sharp, you know? What are you drinking there, homie?
I am drinking my favorite red wine that I found in Honduras. I don't know anything. It's from Chile. It's called Santa Gloria. It's like $5 for this beautiful bottle. It's amazing. Loving it.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? You know what? We had a patron a long time ago, Taylor Huff, and he sent us 10 questions, and we weren't able to get out to all of them. So he says, do you watch any other sailing channels? That's always a good one.
You know, the sailing channel that we've been watching the most recently is Sailing Suliani.
Or Sulianis?
We don't know how to pronounce it. Sulianis, yeah. But we don't watch them so much for entertainment, as you might imagine, as much as inspiration or kind of seeing what other people are doing out there. And I dig their style.
Yeah, they got good style.
Yeah, and then other than that, you know, Gone with the Winds are really cool, and then Free Range Sailing, I think I like what they're doing. And they all have very different takes on stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Gone with the Winds is probably as, like, I guess cookie cutter or like clean as you can get as cruisers.
Mm-hmm.
And then Free Range Sailing is kind of on the other end of that spectrum. And Suliani is kind of somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm,
but,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what podcasts do you guys listen to? I don't know. You have an answer for that.
Podcasts? Boy, I was just listening to Joe Rogan earlier today, but that's not exactly a sailing podcast,
It's all about
is it?
Andy Schell.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of On the Wind by Andy Schell. If you guys are looking for, like, if you've got your sailing stoke and you are, you know, dreaming about cruising and you just kind of, you want to, like, consume as much sailing content as possible, I would highly recommend listening to On the Wind with Andy Schell when you're doing the dishes or cooking, or, you know, whenever you've got doing some menial tasks that you can listen to a podcast, because he interviews all of the big names in sailing and cruising. You know, Nigel Calder, of course, they're all eluding me now. I'd have to really think about it. But, I mean, literally all of the... I don't think he ever got Lynn and Larry Party, but basically all the authors from the books in our bookshelf, he's had them on. So
if you do want to listen to Lynn and Larry Party, they are interviewed a lot on the Boat Galley Cookbooks podcast. So there's some really interesting information there.
That's cool. And Rob S. says, Andy helped me with my synthetic rig. That's
cool.
That's super cool. Like, did you, like, talk to him in person or via, like, you know, the internet? Or how were you able to get a hold of him? I'm really curious about that, Rob. That's awesome. Yeah,
Rob Miller, who is one of our patrons, went on one of Andy Schell's passages as well. Daniel Oliver asks, hey guys, are you looking for new spars or getting them repaired? And we're just gonna price both of them out and see what's worth it for us. And to be honest, we haven't done any research yet. Jordan's been teaching me how to edit. We actually just redid our intro and outro series sequence. So we've been really kind of focused on the channel recently, but we're getting there. So I'll let you know as soon as we know. If you have any advice about spar companies that you recommend working with out of Florida, let us know. Or any good resources, we are definitely open.
That's right. And you know, somebody else earlier, quite a while ago, asked, I think it was Christopher Keeler not sure. Sorry, Christopher. Asked how much, replacing the spars would cost, and we haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. It's something we got to do real soon. But the point is we are either going to replace the spars or we're going to repair them in the fashion that we were just describing. So it would be replacing the boots, the heads, almost all the hardware on the spars. And so the question is, what's going to be cheaper, to just replace them or to repair them? Now on Atticus, these spars are extremely small. So keep that in mind, right? Like as you think like, oh man, these guys are really digging themselves into a hole. These are super small spars. Like I think our main is only 30 feet tall. The mizzen is 17. The mizzen is a very, very relatively small section of, aluminum extrusion. So it shouldn't be too terrible, I'm hoping. So real quick, for those of you who are just tuning in now, we are doing a t-shirt giveaway today, and we are doing it as a larger part of trying to do a fundraiser for this refit that we're discussing so that we can cross the Pacific next year. And so we are giving away 2 t-shirts, the Project Atticus t-shirts. They've got quotes on the back from season 2. We're going to give away one to anybody that donates $5 or more on Super Chat. They're going to enter into a raffle to win one of these. And same thing with anybody donating $5 or more on PayPal. There's less people that donate on PayPal, so your chances of winning are significantly higher if you donate on PayPal.
I don't know if Jordan mentioned, but all the proceeds are going to our spar and Pacific Crossing refit.
That's right. And so let me just thank some super chatters real quick.
While you get that ready, Lolata D. Argento asks, question about the latex mattress. We are looking for reviews. We got all latex foam for our V-berth and for our settee cushion. And I love latex. I'm only going to use latex going forward on Atticus. We did have dry fast foam, but it bottoms out because its density caps off at about 2 pounds per cubic foot, which is not great for density as far as like everyday cushion use. So I love our latex, and we use a company called sleeponlatex.com. And I just ordered like toppers from them, and then I cut the toppers with an electric kitchen knife and fit that to our V-berth and our settee. I will say that I got too soft of a latex foam for our V-berth, so if I were to go back and do it again, I would get firm. I would get 6 to 8 inches of firm latex for both my settee and for our V-berth foam. So hope that answers your question.
Cool. All right, I'm going to turn this bad boy on.
Cool. Oh, nice. Oh, man. Well, maybe, can I just,
That's not
can I
fun.
turn your inverter off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's do some thank yous.
Okay, so we got Stogie Run says,
Nice.
Thank you very much, Stogie.
Cheers.
Says, Sail Alaska. Great idea. From Fairbanks, myself, now living in Tacoma, Washington, and Puget Sound. Very cool. Thank you, Stogie. And then Mary Jo Clements says, just want to say we really enjoy your videos. Fun and informative. So happy to have found you guys inspiring. One day we'll be boat owners, MJ and Todd. Well, thanks,
Cheers.
MJ and Todd. We really appreciate that. And we can't wait to see you guys out here. And then we've got Lon Pribble, smiley face.
Cheers.
Smiling back at you, Lon. Thank you. We have, let's see here. We got Chad Saxton again. Did you both always want to sail, or did one of you take a little coaxing?
Good question.
How should someone coax their wife into cruising? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Asking for a friend. Nice one. Sent to PayPal, too.
Cool.
Well, first of all,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much, Chad.
Cheers.
We appreciate it. And I would say I definitely wanted to sail first, is the short answer. I didn't always want to sail. I think the very first time I ever got the idea in my head was when my brother, which is, if he's still watching this, he'll be happy to hear me talk about this. My brother, Jim Morrison, and his name is Jim Morrison. I'm not being facetious, right? Or I'm not saying like he's like Jim Morrison. He gave me it was that West Coast Latitude 38, 39. I'm sorry, it sounds really dumb. It's a publication on the West Coast. I'm sure you guys know what it is. Sailing publication. And he showed me an article where 2 brothers had bought an old crabby boat, fixed it up, and were cruising the Caribbean. And I thought it was like I thought it was the most crazy, wild story I'd ever heard in my life, and I was only 17 or 18. So that was the first time I ever even heard of the concept of fixing up a crappy boat and sailing on it. But I did have to coax Desiree. And what's the trick? What would you recommend?
I would say don't do it how Jordan did it. That
there you go.
Led me to like 3 years of chronic stress and guilt.
Thanks, Desiree.
Essentially,
Let's try and put a cherry on this.
Yeah,
just
but I'm happy I'm
on.
here. And I do often tell Jordan, like, thank you for convincing me to stick with it. But essentially, when Jordan and I met, I was saving up my own money to do an around-the-world backpacking trip. And Jordan was saving up to do an around-the-world sailing trip. And so once we started dating, I thought, wow, that's really cool. You do you. See you later, buddy. And then he randomly asked me if I would consider / would like to join him. And so the way that I kind of decided was we went on a mini trip together first. I wanted to see how he kind of traveled and interacted with people as we were traveling, because I really like to meet locals, try to get invited into very kind of remote areas. And like I said, I don't need a lot of creature comforts, so I was looking for that kind of partnership. And he passed the test. He was great. So then I told him I would join him, and in my head I was kind of like, okay, like I've been on this boat for a year, I've saved up enough money, I could give this a shot. Jordan's a really special person. It could be great, but if it turns out I'm not feeling it, I could always just kind of quit and then get a job on a yacht and then continue my dream again. And so the reason it was difficult for me was because we bought the sailboat. And we went straight into the boatyard. I'd never sailed before. We didn't have electricity, plumbing, nothing. I was cooking on a George Foreman stove on a plank of wood with a couple of homeless guys that would come and join us like every other night.
In the yard.
In the boatyard.
Like standing on the dirt down below the bow of the boat.
Yeah, we were peeing in water bottle jugs and emptying those out in the ocean every morning, right above a little nurse shark who would look up at me and be like, if you fall in, I'll be happy about that. So anyways, it was really, really hard for me to stay motivated through our 3-year refit without having a lot of understanding of the like positive, amazing, wonderful side of cruising. So actually Kika and Dan from Sailing Uma do an interview with me and Jordan about tips on how to get your significant other to start cruising. So we'll link to that in the description below after we post this. But essentially, I would have liked to see more of like the wonder of sailing before I got shoved into the boatyard part of it. So just like an offshore passage somewhere, like maybe a Sail Libra trip, or maybe some racing, or maybe just a sunset cruise, you know? It took a long time for me to actually get the benefits of what it was all about.
Yeah, Sean Murphy says, I figured he blackmailed you. Like, everyone's like, yeah, Desiree, like, get to the point here. Like, what did he actually do? Did he drug you? Like, no, and so I think that, ironically, the question was, like, how did I convince you? Yeah. And you kind of answered, like, it was terrible, and he did a terrible job.
Yeah.
Like, I think the problem was the expectations, right? I didn't give her realistic expectations. I basically convinced her to do it by making it sound like it was going to be awesome, and it turned out to be very difficult for a while. And so that's one way to do it, is lie, like just outright lie to them.
It's not a good way to do it.
I don't imagine it's a good idea, because I think I just barely, we kind of just barely made it as a couple through some of those periods.
I packed my bag like 4 times.
Yeah, it was just a hard time, but like we made it through. I think the best thing I ever did was when we first started dating. Desiree tells me, like, after one night we kind of had not an argument, but like I was being a little annoying, and so Desiree was thinking to herself, man, I think this might not work out. You know, I might have to move on, go back onto my other plan. And then the first thing the next morning, she woke up and I was in the middle of cooking her breakfast. And she's like, that kept me from like leaving. Like I was like, oh, nice one. Like he's making breakfast. So always make breakfast.
Massages are good too. When things get low, just say, can I give you a massage for an hour?
Yeah. Brad Scott says Jordan must be good in the sack. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? Yeah. But seriously, I think, you know, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I think at the end of the day, we were on the same page already, wouldn't you say, Bud? Like, we both wanted roughly the same thing. She didn't want to sail, but she wanted to travel.
Yeah.
So I don't have any experience convincing somebody who wants to, like, stay home and, like, bake all day, like, to, like, go explore the world.
Or do complex math equations all day in their high-paying job.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. That was, like, a total, like, female stereotype that I shouldn't have like gone into, but like I don't have any experience convincing somebody that traveling and making sacrifices to travel is worth it. Desiree was already on that page. What I had to do was to convince her that like sailing and sailboats were the way to go, and that's not as big of a step. So I guess if I were to give any advice, it would be try and find a partner that kind of shares those core values. You know?
Yeah, when things get really rough, when I'm seasick, when it's scary, when the boat's not going well, when we're both not at our best and kind of testy with each other, I always have the internal kind of like mantra where I'm like, you're living your dream, you're seeing the world while you're young. This, like, make it work. So. Yeah,
Carlos Rodriguez says, Jordan, Des, I'm buying the drinks. You should talk to my wife and help me convince her. My daughter, 4 years old, will jump right at it. Just because you have been through the real deal. We'd be happy to, Carlos. You just tell us when and where. I'm down. So anyway, let's see here. We've got
a couple more super chats.
Yep, Sailing SV someday. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers.
Says,
again.
Where's the cowboy hat? I still want to win that bad boy.
Darn it.
Yeah, can you hand that to me?
Yeah.
And then we've got Brad Scott says, I've already got that shirt, so if I win, pass mine on to the locals that help you out. Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
That's a great idea. Cool.
That is a great idea. All right, here we go.
All right,
now things are getting real.
Well, let's go ahead and...
Hold on. And we got Jennifer Dunn.
Oh, cool.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. Cheers. Boom. And we have... Okay, that's it. We're caught up.
Cool. And then let's go ahead and we'll just say we're going to be closing the PayPal drawing in the next minute. So we'll answer one more question. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get our PayPal drawing ready.
So again, if you want to buy or if you want to win this T-shirt, Project Atticus T-shirt, you've got 1 minute to make a $5 or more donation on PayPal, and then after that, the doors will be closing on Super Chat as well. So either or, and you can possibly win this shirt and help us fund this refit so we can try and sail across the Pacific. All right, so you're going to be tied up for a bit?
Yeah, you can answer some questions. We're going to do some admin stuff.
Cool. All right, so let's see. Chad Saxton says, wow, great answer. How to hoax a wife. Thank you both. Definitely gained a patron here. Hey, nice one. Thanks, Chad. We appreciate it. And then Sailing Segundo asks, would you consider wood masts? And I would consider wood masts. There's nothing inherently about wood masts that I would say no-go. That said, when I can, I try to have less wood on deck. Just because, you know, whatever wood we do have up here is just a little bit more upkeep. That said, I've not had painted wood masts before. I don't know what the maintenance would be like, so I'm definitely not against it. It's a possibility. Okay, let's see here. What do we have? Brad Scott asks, could you cut the mast down just a bit to remove the damage at the bottom? And yes, you could. And that, in fact, is what we would do if we didn't replace the spars entirely. It's just getting to the point where we would have to lower both the mizzen and the main. The main boom doesn't go much higher than the hardtop, so we couldn't lower it too much. And then on top of that, there are more corrosion issues at hand than just the bases of the mast. including the similar caps on the boom. So long story short, that is exactly what we will do if we don't end up replacing the spars. And so in order to figure that out, we'll have to basically get a quote on what it would cost for us to get new spars. The other nice thing about getting new spars is I would like to work with a spar company that kind of specializes in doing offshore spars and offshore hardware. Because as I've said before, there's a lot of the components to this rig that I just don't think were ever really designed for offshore use. They'd probably be okay, but they don't, you know, fill me with a warm and fuzzy feeling when I look at them. And so that's something that you know, I think even enters into the topic that we were talking about before, which is, you know, why not go out and buy, you know, some cheap boat that's already been refit, right? Like, go buy a boat that someone has already refit. Well, that's assuming that the boat has been refit with the intention of taking it sailing offshore. Because you can refit a boat with the intention of doing some coastal cruising or weekend sailing, and it's going to look very different than if you refit that same boat for offshore cruising. And so, you know, that's another big issue to consider when buying a boat that is quote-unquote ready to go, because you might be buying a day sailor, not realizing that you're going to have a lot of investment to make to get that boat ready to go offshore.
It is super windy. All right, we've got the numbers in here. We're going to do a number system, so it doesn't take me so long to write out everyone's name. So here, you mix it, I'll pick it. Or you want to pick it?
Oh boy. Oh, careful, careful. Okay. All right, I'm gonna shake it, and you're gonna pick it.
Okay.
Right, okay,
this is
so
a PayPal drawing for this lovely shirt.
All right, here we go.
I just totally looked.
Yeah.
Okay, goes to number 11. Oh, you can't see it. 11. Put that down so it doesn't fly away.
Okay.
And that is, I gotta do it real quick. 11. The winner is Wally Steadley.
Wally Steadley! You are the winner.
Steedley.
Wally Steedley.
Yes, so Wally, go ahead and send us a message on our Facebook page with your shirt size and your home address, and we will send you a t-shirt.
Right.
Let's do our super chat donations. You can answer 2 more questions until I get ready, and we'll close the drawing in about a minute. Okay,
rock on. So, I did just see somebody was mentioning, oh, Donald Trump says, hey, hello, Donald Trump. Thanks for joining our live stream. Let's see here. How do you generate power? So, I did see somebody asking, can't you just block, yeah, Carl Friedrich asks, can't you just block the mast up? Yes, you can. So, that's again, that's what we would do, is we would cut the base off, and we would probably, these are deck step masts, so the deck step itself, we would probably have new ones made that were just that much taller. The problem is, for instance, on the mizzen, that crack is a good 2.5 inches high, so we would need to increase the height of the deck step by 3 inches. That means the deck step will have to be wider, significantly wider, to be that much taller. So, not a big deal, like not a deal breaker, I should say, but definitely like inconvenient. The cockpit's already relatively small, so definitely doable. We may end up doing it, but like we found multiple times in our refit that sometimes if you try and fix something that has lots of problems, by the time you're done fixing it, you wish you would have just bought a new one and replaced it. And I feel that way about a lot of the wood restoration that we did on the boat. I really wish that instead of spending all the time that I spent digging out the rot, epoxying it, you know, filling it, dealing with all the cracks, I wish I would have just built a new one. It's easier. So.
Yeah. You live and you learn, am I right?
You live and you learn. So again, we're not certain what we're gonna do. We have to price it out before we can figure that out.
All right, so we're all ready for Super Chat. You want to mix these up for me?
All right, here we go, guys. So, is Super Chat closed officially?
Super Chat is officially closed.
Oh, well.
Okay, you got 1 minute.
Okay, 60 seconds for $5 Super Chat donation or more to get entered into this drawing.
While Jordan sings a song.
Yeah. While I sing So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu.
Okay, that's good.
That was sufficiently awkward.
I don't think we got any more super chats.
I don't know, Brad Scott, was that awkward enough, or does it need to get more awkward? You're a good gauge, I feel like.
All right, the winner for the second drawing is... That's weird, number 11 again. Huh.
Desiree is rigging this game.
I am totally rigging it. And it's Brad Scott.
Brad Scott! Nice one, bro!
Congratulations.
Wow, that is amazing.
Nice. Way to go.
You are one lucky bromigo.
That's funny. We found something they don't do well.
That's awesome, Brad. That's good. All right, guys. Well, that was a wonderful live stream, so thank you guys for joining.
For Sunset?
Yeah, Sunset live stream. Next week, we'll probably try and get the camera a little bit lower so that you can hopefully actually see the sun. We'll see if we can do it. Anonymous user says, I can't stop laughing. And then Ian Wilson says, brilliant, guys. That was so scary. Geoff Gello says, OMG, my ears.
We'll have to train for next week's live stream.
Yeah. I never said I was good at singing. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's it. That's what I am not good at. I can safely say that.
Anyways, we wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you, Dave, our moderator, for always being so amazing and getting those PayPal and Super Chat links set up and sending me great questions. We want to thank Mike over in...
He's in Canada.
I
don't know
Alaska.
what part of Canada.
Over in Canada for helping us with the live with the drawing tonight. You were amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
If you guys are interested in trying to get on an offshore passage, we have been working with a company called Sail Libra, and next week's episode is going to be all about my solo bud adventure with Sail Libra, so you can see what their program's all about. And if you want to sign up for an offshore passage with Sail Libra, you can do that using promo code PAOffshore, all caps, and sometimes he gives up to $1,000 off per trip. So definitely check out his itinerary. We have 2 Project Atticus viewers who are on a trip right now. They're in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So yes. What else? If you never want to miss a live stream in the future, you can always text the word Atticus, ATTICUS, to the number 43506, and you'll get a text notification the day we go live, and you will never be charged for that. Only complication there is I think you have to be a U.S. or Canadian citizen. All right. Any other last minute?
No, other than definitely catch this next week's episode because it's awesome. Desiree goes on a trip with Sail Libra, and she goes solo, and so you don't have to deal with me and my obnoxiousness. You got the beautiful Desiree taking you on a journey across the Gulf of Mexico, and it's very good.
Yeah,
I'm actually really excited about it. So a couple of last-minute comments before we sign off. Jeremy at SV Brujo or Brujo says, sorry I'm late, just in time for that musical, and then skull and crossbones sign. That's awesome. Sorry, dude. It wasn't all like that, I swear.
And then Thompson BMX says, keep your day jobs.
Yeah, that's right. And then, let's see, Flenomax, sorry, I'm probably saying that wrong. Flenomax says, saw all your videos, only ones I caught up to. Rock on, cool. Man. Well, we are honored that you have watched all of the things that we have put out. We really appreciate it. And then... we
got lots of hearts.
Got lots of hearts from Dave. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
And let's see.
Bohan.
Lon Pribble says the text thing worked well.
Cool.
I would have missed it without it. So there you go.
There you go.
Lon Pribble can tell you that the text thing works really well. Can you say the number one more time?
43506.
And so you text the word Atticus, like as in Project Atticus, to the number 43506. And we promise you won't get any weird kind of messages or anything. It's just straight up, you'll get a notification next time we have a live stream. Okay, guys.
And we had a great question from Bohan about how we, deal with our relationship and being together, but we'll get to that next live stream.
Okay, rock on. Cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. That was a fun time. And until next week, we will
sing.